Mallory of Emily's Papercrafts. Today I want to show you how to create your own steam locomotive engine using iris folding techniques. Let's get started. So before we dive in case you bought the kit and you're like, oh my goodness, there's lots of little pieces, let's talk through what some of these little pieces are because they look kind of crazy. So you've got your red and your black strips as usual for iris folding. Get your pattern and a long list of instructions because this is a lot more complicated than some of my other kits. You'll also have a little almost square rectangular piece of clear vellum. That is for your train window. So we're going to get to that actually fairly early on in creating our train. You'll have a little piece of gold glitter. That's the little light at the front of the train. You have this really weird looking gray piece, and that actually is what's going to help separate the cab from the smokestack. So all of the pieces in the kit, this is probably the only one that you can't replace. So make sure you don't lose your little gray piece. And then you've got your 3 black wheels for the train engine. So let's get started. This one is a little bit more complicated, as you can tell by the pattern, than some of my other kits that I've made in the past, or if you've done iris folding in the past, this is a little bit different because we're just sort of doing, what should I say, maybe modern iris folding. So this time I am actually going to tape down, if you've watched some of my other videos, my pattern over, or my shape over my pattern. First, we are going to start by doing the letters. So we're going to create the cab and the smokestack. So we're going to take our black, and again we're going to do this kind of out of order, what's going to feel normal, and I'm going to cut it before folding it. So then I'm going to fold over the edge of the black, and we're going to do letter A. And my tape down the fold because this is one greeting card where it will be helpful if our little pieces of paper will stay flat. And we'll line that up. In case the pattern and the cutout don't exactly match, line it up with the top of what's going to become the smokestack and then the back of the cab. Fold side down, and there we have it. So now we have A done. Next, we're going to do B. B is going to be a little bit different. We're going to measure it and go a little bit long. And this is the one that we're going to fold very differently because we're actually going to use an unfolded edge here at the base of B, but a folded edge. So it looks like our cab is enclosed. So we're going to fold over the short side of the paper instead. Take a little bit of tape just to help hold it down. I'm going to fold it and place it that way. Do the smokestack. It's going to be loose on this open edge there by the cab. Again, if the pattern and the cutout aren't exactly matching, go with the cutout over the pattern. Alright, so then to more or less finish the cab, we're going to just do line C, which is going to take up pretty much the rest of your black paper. Because it's a little bit longer than what I need, I'm going to go ahead and trim it so I don't have the extra hanging around in the back. We're going to fold it over like we normally would for iris folding. A little bit of tape to help hold it down. And then again, if the pattern and the cutout aren't exactly matching, go with the cutout over the pattern. Because the pattern you can blend in as you go along. So at this point we are done with our black, woohoo, until we get to the very, very end when we do our wheels. Next, just so I don't lose it, I'm going to use the little gold piece for the little bit of the light there. Just seemed appropriate to make the light colored even if it's daytime when the train is going by. So I'm not going to bother to fold that one over. I'm just going to go ahead and just put it down so that way it stays a little bit more flat. Next, woohoo, we get to start in on our red. So let me slide this out of the way for a second and fold all of my reds. However, one of them I'm going to try to do really skinny because the number 2 slot needs to be a double fold. So there we go, we'll tape down one side. Don't worry about folding over perfectly even on your strips. No one's gonna see the back side. And I'm gonna hold the third in reserve just in case I need a little bit of a thinner one. So let's get back to our pattern. So we're gonna start with 1, and if you'll notice with 1, there's no ending edge. There's just a top edge and the outline. That's because this just is going to be our cow catcher, and we don't really need a ton of space. Then actually, if you wanted, you could flip this paper so it looks differently. So I am going to do that. Which is why I've held a third piece here in reserve. So I want my cow catcher lines to be going that way. So again, I'm going to fold over this sort of the skinny top edge and use it that way. All right, the tape has gotten over its temperamentalism here. So then I'm going to put the fold up to the top. Just make sure that you're covering that whole area there of the cow catcher. And voila. So again, it can go in quite a ways with number 4. It's not going to show up at the end. Okay, moving on to number 2. So with 2, you'll notice we need to do the top part of the cab. So we're going to line it up. So I'm going to need a long piece this time. And then I'm only going to worry about folding it down just about that far, because the rest of it is going to get hidden here behind the smokestack. And don't worry if your top edge of 2 doesn't meet exactly. That was just more of a guideline. Mine ended up here a little bit long, but I'd rather have it a little bit too long than too short. So then if we wanted to hop around with our numbers, we could go ahead and fill in number 6 now, but we'll just keep working the pattern. So now it's more or less a typical iris folding pattern where you just follow the numbers around to work to the center. So number 3, four is another really long one. It's actually going behind all of the wheels. Don't think the number of that one is quite long enough there for 5. All right, and here we are up to 6, which is your vellum. So if you're following along with my written instructions with the kit, you'll know that number 6 is where you get to put a piece of vellum for the cab window. So that way it looks a little bit more like it's an actual train rather than doing another piece of red where you can't have a window. The only trick with having a clear window is to make sure that your pieces, as you continue to work, aren't going to come up into that window. So rather than just doing a folding over and creating more bulk, I'm going to trim it. The more bulk we have, the more work we're going to have to go to later to try to minimize that. Otherwise we're going to need to use foam dimensionals to boost our card higher. Nope, too short. I always like using my scrap set. whenever possible. Number 10. All right, and this is why I've held my other piece in reserve. I was pretty sure I was going to need it, but I liked having that ability to cut off a piece and having it go the other direction. So number 11, I'm going to have to remember to trim it on the top again. Most likely, as long as it, no, actually this one will just barely hide behind there, so we're going to be good. But do make sure that your piece of paper that goes across misses your window, because otherwise you're going to have this little tiny red corner sticking out. Won't be the end of the world, but everyone will notice your little red flag in the window. All right, so now that we're here at the center, we can choose if we want to use one of the ovals, so you could write in a number in the middle of your train. This is where it's always kind of fun to look at the other side and see what you've got. Beautiful. A little bit of eraser will clean that a little bit up. So I could position one of my ovals there perfectly in case I wanted to write in a number for a birthday or for some other special occasion. I usually like positioning these by looking at it from the front side in. All right, and then smooshing it down on the back. All right, excellent. We have our train mostly completed. So the next step, just so we're not trying to pick up a very sticky card from our workspace, is to position all of our iris folding train onto the front of our greeting card. And it is very sticky. Very sticky. Okay, next you'll need a little bit of liquid glue to put in that smokestack piece and your wheels. I'm going to start with one of the wheels just because it's going to be easiest. So just some liquid glue there in the center. And then it's going to overlap the gray slightly, so don't worry about trying to get it completely inside sort of those wheel wells that it's got. Go ahead and cover some of the gray up. I intentionally made slightly larger wheels so they would cover the area better. There goes our other wheel. Try to keep them so they're all the same sort of height if I were to put in a piece of track underneath. All right, so now for our really weird little piece of gray. You want it so the point is on the right hand side when you're finished. So when you put glue on it, you want the point more on the left hand side. So it looks like the letter B when you put glue on it, but when you put it down, you want it to look like the letter D. And then it's going to connect or appear to touch the bottom of the black paper and the point of sort of the straight edge of your letter to connect to that point up there. Here's one of my other corsage pins. So your points are going to match, and then the base of your letter matches against the black. And there you have a very cute, unusual steam engine train for your train lover for a perfect birthday card or any other occasion. Thanks for joining me.